Welcome to READACT TV. I'm Don Friedman, President of the RIA Digital Assets Council. Today we have Lisa Nestor, Senior Strategist at the Stellar Development Foundation. Lisa, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Don.
So the first question we'll ask is, many advisors are familiar with Bitcoin and Ethereum. What's the difference between these cryptocurrencies and stablecoins? And what are some interesting use cases for stablecoins?
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. So at a high level, stablecoins are the first viable product of the blockchain space. That's really the way to think about it. And the analogy that I'll draw here is to the internet itself. So if we think about blockchain as being an internet-like infrastructure, but in this case, infrastructure that's decentralized and open and public, and cryptocurrency as being really the native kind of token or currency of that infrastructure, things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course, Stellar Lumens. The infrastructure itself now has a product, which is stable coins, a digital token that has been issued on top of that infrastructure. So on the internet, this would be like, really the first companies who built websites and started selling products online. And so I think that is really the way to think about stablecoins. They are products that have been built off of the blockchain infrastructure, and really the first products that have started generating real use case traction and delivering value to consumers on the kind of product of that promise. So, what are stablecoins then? Kind of dissecting this product a little bit. So stablecoins were originally designed as a cryptocurrency to minimize price volatility. Like everything in technology, they have since evolved. And I would say that there's two really primary categories of stablecoins right now. You have algorithmic stablecoins and asset-backed stablecoins. So algorithmic stablecoins, the primary use case that they're being used for right now is still trading. So cryptocurrency traders who are looking to be able to kind of, migrate some of their risk exposure, hold these various assets. But it is evolving from that, and that's because there's some key features around algorithmic stablecoins that are kind of interesting. First, they use smart contracts, so automated smart contracts built using blockchain platforms, and so that makes them very transparent. It's very clear what the algorithm that's used to maintain the price stability of these assets. They're open, so anybody who connects to these blockchains can access and participate in these stablecoins. And they're also fairly unregulated. So, to be frank, there's a lot of regulatory arbitrage that's being used around these products right now. Looking at asset-backed stablecoins, these are kind of really touching a totally different type of use case in many cases and have a look and feel that's different. When I say asset-backed, that means there's typically, if it's a dollar stablecoin, a dollar held in bank account in reserve by a company that's backing the value of this digital token. What that means is that there's a very clear counterparty to this asset, similar to a bank. Typically, these stablecoins are issued by regulated financial institutions. I think at a high level, what they're really doing is providing access to currencies for individuals or corporations that didn't have as easy access before. And that's kind of, we're seeing this, for example, be, a household in Argentina getting access to a digital dollar, for example. So that earlier was much more difficult. Now there are apps that you can download on your mobile phone, and you can, go from an Argentinian peso to a digital dollar. So those are some of the use cases we're seeing around stablecoins.
Great explanation. Thank you for that. And that kind of leads into our next question. So how are stablecoins being used on Stellar for cross-border payments?
Sure, absolutely. So in Stellar, we are fully working around the asset-backed stablecoin model. So we have a robust ecosystem of stablecoin issuers on Stellar. Typically, in all cases, these are licensed financial institutions, typically really optimized for payment processing. And so these issuers will essentially create reserved backed currencies that are tied to whatever country they're operating in. So if it's a US based company, they're issuing a digital dollar. If they're in Europe, it's a digital euro. If they're in Nigeria or Tanzania, it's a Nigerian naira or Tanzanian shilling. And these digital currencies are then being used right now in two primary use cases for cross-border payments: remittances and B2B corporate payments. What this means is that in the Stellar universe, right now we have less kind of retail consumers holding and using these stable coins. Instead, a remittance company, for example, in Europe, will use stable coins that they are issuing, as well as other stable coins from markets where they want to send payments to, like Nigeria or Tanzania, to execute a direct transaction. And because they're able to use these tokenized digital currencies to execute that payment, there's no intermediary. It's very fast. It's a very low cost transfer. And they're also able to reduce the amount of treasury that they typically have to hold at any given time, which has a lot of cost savings for their business. It's a similar model on the reverse side, but for B2B corporate payments. So, a company in Argentina or Brazil needs to make a corporate payment to somewhere else in Latin America. We see really interesting companies utilizing stable coins to kind of migrate how they're doing these cross-border transactions outside of wires, or kind of like more traditional cross-border payment infrastructure, and using it on the Stellar blockchain.
Great insight, Lisa. And thanks for being our guest on Redact TV.
Thank you so much, Don.